What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle. Tonight, as I record this, it is March 16th, Wednesday night, about 7:33 p.m. Central Time here. We're going to be going through the entire NBA. This is just going to be a quick fantasy look at each NBA team specifically. We'll kind of go through and just look at the top performers on each team and just do a little fancy take on each team. So what we'll do is we'll hop into a screen share here. We're going to look first at our hashtag basketball website. And one of the best tools I think you can use for fantasies. I did put it in the description below too. So if you go to hashtag basketball, you're just going to want to click on the advanced schedule grid here. Scroll on down, you see it's week 21, and then you can begin to look at the weeks ahead, which we'll do later as well. But for this week, we care about who's got the most games, and a lot of teams have 4 games. Again, as I record this, Wednesday night, really huge night. If you're looking for players on Thursday night, only 2 teams play, the Orlando Magic and the Detroit Pistons squaring off. So we'll look at some guys for that matchup as well. If you're looking for Friday games, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only 6 teams do not play on Friday. It looks like Saturday, we kind of have just a few teams playing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only 4 games played on Saturday, 9 on Sunday. So do with this what you will. And again, always good to look ahead at week 22, especially now that we're in the fantasy playoffs. 2 teams, the Clippers and the Kings, only have 2 games next week, and the Spurs, oh no. So that's some big names there for some guys like DeJounte Murray, maybe Sabonis if you made the playoffs with those guys. So that's really unfortunate. And then you have a lot of teams with 4, it looks like, next week. So go ahead and take advantage of the advanced schedule grid. And then before we get into the video, I just want to say, hey, if you're new, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. We finally got over 400, so I'm looking to the next milestone of 500 subscribers. Let's continue to grow the Fantasy Fellowship. And yeah, I appreciate you guys being here. And let's hop into it. We're going to start. Typically, I go from Atlanta down to Washington, but let's do the inverse today. I'm going to go from Washington to Atlanta. So the way I do this is let's go ahead and hit the last we'll hit the last 7 days because that's the most recent numbers, and then I'll hit averages here. So for the, I guess I should probably filter by all players available too. And it looks like here the best players over the last 7 days. Porzingis, well owned though, 94%, so you're not picking him up. But KCP, you can see I actually have added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's been playing really well over the last month or so too. You look at his numbers all the way back to February 10th. Pretty solid numbers here from the guy. In his last few games here, specifically since like March 4th, really good numbers. So he's playing well tonight so far, it looks like, here on the 16th. No complaints from me. Pick up Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, under 20% rostered, averaging 28 points per game over the last 7 days. Kuzma having a fantastic year, but he's kind of dipping here in the last 7 days. Thomas Bryant beginning to become fantasy worthy here, 14% rostered, averaging 24.8 fantasy points. Now, this is weird. It's just a 1-game sample here. He had been playing well, and then I don't know what happened here. So this is kind of related to the Porzingis thing. I think that's maybe why his numbers are down, but we'll continue to watch him. I'm not saying to add him, just continue to watch him. Daniel Gafford, kind of the same thing, taking a hit because of the Zingis addition here, and just kind of spotty, hard to trust for 10, 12-man leagues. Ish Smith, Raul Neto, Rui Hachimura, these guys all averaging 20 fantasy points per game, so I'm intrigued. You know, Ish Smith, if he were to get starter minutes, I'd be intrigued. He does have 2 nice games here, but I think Raul Neto is still the kind of the co-starter here, so it's kind of messy. I really don't know if I'm going to be relying on the Washington Wizards for my fantasy points. So stick with KCP as an addition. Porzingis and Kuzma are really the only guys that are must own. Let's go ahead and look at Utah. We got 4 guys more than 30 fantasy points per game. We'll look at this individually here. Of course, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. These guys are 99+% owned. I'm not going to tell you to add these guys because they're not available to be added. But Bojan Magdanovich missing a couple games lately with a calf injury. Missing his 2nd game tonight against Chicago. He had been playing really well. You see his last 4 games, he'd been putting up some heat. But all of a sudden, a calf injury sidelining him. So 61.7% rostered. If someone were to let him go, he's a good stash ad, especially now that we're in the fantasy playoff season. And then Mike Conley, 85% rostered. He's not available in a lot of leagues, averaging 33 points per game. But Hassan Whiteside, an interesting piece. He's had a decent since he got to Utah, he's been a pretty good fantasy player. He's been a little bit inconsistent, but when he gets big minutes, that's what's skewing this. So 35 minutes against Sacramento, 12 points, 21 rebounds, 5 categories in that game, 51 fantasy points. But you look at his last 3 games, in the games where he gets 16 minutes, he's getting 23, 26.5 fantasy points. This is, 10-man league, I'll think about rostering him. In a 12-man league, though, I'm probably going to roster Hassan Whiteside. Jordan Clarkson, another must-roster player here. You see 65% rostered on the last 7 days, though, averaging 27.5 points. And then Royce O'Neal, 8.8% rostered, but averaging 24.1 points per game. And I think in 10-man leagues, this is definitely roster worthy here. You see 5 of his last 6 games over 20 fantasy points. I guess even 6 out of his last 8. That's solid here. The minutes, I like the minutes with Royce O'Neal. So if you want someone that you can just plug in and just be like, yeah, he's my worst player, but he's going to get me at least 20 in this game. So I like Royce O'Neal, 8.8% rostered. And then after that, we'll stay away here. Everything else just doesn't really make sense. For fantasy, is there anyone coming back on this team soon here that might be helpful? I don't see any red O's. But anyways, let's move it on to Toronto Raptors here. And 2 guys are averaging over 40 fantasy points per game. Pascal Siakam, 47.2, and Scotty Barnes, 44.9. These guys aren't available in any leagues. Either is Fred VanVleet, but he is back. He's been back now for at least a couple weeks. Missed 1 game here against Denver, back against the Lakers. I don't know if they're just taking it easy with him on back-to-backs kind of thing here. But either way, Fred VanVleet, 99% rostered. You can't get him. So Gary Trent Jr., what do we do with him? He's 77.6% rostered. Small chance he's out there in your leagues. But if not, we'll just kind of move it on here. Chris Boucher, though, an interesting name. 57.9% rostered, averaging 24.2. Ooh, a massive 54-point game in this box score, a 12 and a 5. So not really the most he is definitely inconsistent, not the most consistent, I was going to say. But either way here, this is a guy, the minutes, everything's just kind of spotty. I think if you're gambling for a night or 2, you can hold on to him. Not a player I definitely need, but I like the outbursts when it comes. Precious Achiuwa, averaging over his last 7 games, averaging 22.7. So he's a fringe roster guy in a 10 and 12-man league. For the most part, his 15 and 17-point floor over the last handful of weeks here is nice. Big game against the Lakers, 33 minutes, 10 points, 11 boards, 5 categories in that game. So if he can keep this up, it's a double-double. He's not going to average that. But if he can continue to touch 5 categories or a minimum 4 categories, I like that. And he had been playing well earlier here at the end of February. So keep an eye on Precious. I'd rather own Precious Achiuwa than Chris Boucher. I think he's a little more consistent, can handle his numbers a little bit better here. Thad Young getting some run here with the Raptors, starting to get settled in here to some minutes. Very consistent over the last month or so. Not a player I'm really curious about for 10 and 12-man leagues, though. After that, OG Anunoby. When are we getting OG back? So tonight, again, it's Wednesday night. He got listed as doubtful tonight, so that's positive that he's at least he's being considered, whether it's doubtful or questionable. So he's closer to returning than not. You see, he's missed a lot of time here since basically the All-Star break. So OG Anunoby on his way back. If anyone's dropped him in your league, go and stash him, put him on your IR, and we'll see what happens. Otherwise, we'll move on here from the Raptors. The Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox averaging 55 points per game. Sabonis, of course, 99% rostered. You're not getting those guys on the waiver wires. Harrison Barnes, 88.6% rostered. But after that, you got a couple guys here. We got 3 dudes averaging more than 23 points per game the last 7 days, and that's Trey Lyles, Damian Jones, and Chimezie Metu. All kind of big guys here. Trey plays the 4, Damian and Chimezie play the 5. But Trey Lyles, he'd been playing really well before the big trade here. But you see the last 3 games, 24 minutes, 35. I like the flirting with the double-doubles here. For sure, 3 categories on a given night, and every now and then he'll go and get a steal and a block. So I'm kind of intrigued here. Don't know if I love it, but if this is a trend here, these minutes, 24, 20, and 35, if he can stay in between that bumper, I like it. Damian Jones here. Did not play the other night, so I don't know if I trust this, but when he gets the minutes, he's playing well. Don't know if I trust it for fantasy, though. And then Metu here. This is what I like. If you can tell me he's going to play between 18 and 23 minutes per game, I'm kind of interested. In 10 and 12-man leagues, he's a guy that can get you 20. And you can see he's averaging 20.1 points per game on the season, which is crazy. So if he gets consistent minutes, I'm kind of all aboard here. So keep an eye on Chimizi Mitu, a guy that could be getting more run as the season goes on. And then lately, Davion Mitchell and Dante DiVincenzo have not been playing great. Davion's only 5% rostered and DiVincenzo 37% rostered. But I would say I don't know what happened in the Denver and the Utah games here. 2 bad games from DiVincenzo, but otherwise he had been playing pretty well. So keep an eye on DiVincenzo. And if he's out there, I might be snagging him in 10 and 12 man leagues. But otherwise, that's it. The Kings. We'll move on. We'll move on to San Antonio. And this one, keep in mind too, the Spurs only have 2 games next weekend, so I'm a little bit nervous about adding these guys. The only must-own players: Dejounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, Jakob Poeltl. Devin Vassal's actually approaching must-own territory. It's just, again, it's a shame that they play only 2 games next week. But man, he had been. Just look at his catalog here. I'm very impressed with these numbers from Devin Vassal. You can see I already was interested in him. If you need someone for the rest of the week, I would say go ahead and add Vassal. And again, the rest of the week here, you're going to get a game on Friday and a game on Sunday. So you do get 2 more games out of him this week at least. And then even Lonnie Walker, 24 fantasy points per game. Josh Richardson, not sure I love it, but consider Vassal, Lonnie Walker, adding these guys for sure. We'll move it on here. Not too much interest there for fantasy. Portland, will be quick with Portland too. But Josh Hart taking control of this team again, 44.8 fantasy points over the last 7 games. Put up a 70 monster game here, 44 against Washington, 8, 6, and 4 in that game here. So that's going to skew his numbers. But again, he's 53.8% rostered. He needs to be owned in 10 and 12 man leagues. The main guy, though, here, Trenton Watford, probably the biggest guy in tonight's show that I wanted to talk about. He is 15.6% rostered, averaging 40.8 points per game, and he's been consistent basically since March 2nd when he started he's been well over 30 minutes per game. And you look at his last 7 days, just putting up massive points. You see 3 straight games of 20 real points, assists, rebounds, steals, a couple blocks. Like, he's a 4-category player. Trenton Watford trending in the right direction right now, outperforming Drew Eubanks, who actually is an interesting fantasy guy as well, just a little bit more wild and inconsistent. But if he gets 30 minutes, I'm interested here. Playing well tonight already. Go ahead and consider adding Eubanks, adding Watford. Brandon Williams, the point guard here, I like what I get from him because, of course, our guy, what is his name? Simons. And Fernay Simons is not playing right now. So as long as Simons out, Brandon Williams is the guy. He's been playing really well. High minutes, high points, good scorer. He's a 3 to 4 category guy, sometimes a 5 category guy on a given night. So I like Brandon Williams here. After that, Ellaby, too dangerous for his ups and downs. But I think Watford, Eubanks, Williams, there's some fantasy names here for the Portland Trailblazers that really interest me. And I'm not sure what's up with Simons here. He's expected to be sidelined 1 to 2 weeks after MRI showed, whatever. So this was on March 11th. Puts us out maybe week 22. We'll see. So as long as Simon's out, I believe, guys, it's going to be Brandon Williams. That's the guy you want to pick up. So moving on to Phoenix, a little bit more fun team here to rely on a lot of the alphabet teams at the bottom here. Not as fun. But Booker's been on one. He's well owned. DeAndre Ayton, of course, well owned. Cameron Payne, though, this guy, we called him a couple weeks ago. We had a nice video about Cameron Payne. 39.4% rostered, averaging 33.9 fantasy points per game. Just fantastic. Since he came back, just stepped right into the role here. Been just putting up numbers, putting up I wouldn't say elite numbers, but these are like fringe all-star numbers from Cameron Payne here. So the future is bright for Cameron Payne for sure. Double-double machine. You see the assists. He's had 4 games with double-digit assists. Very solid rebounder. And guess what? He's sneaky with the steals too. And I just think this is a player here we're going to want to hold on to for the rest of the season. If you play in 8 and 10 man leagues, man, is probably your last chance to get him. Mikal Bridges still playing well. But Javel Mcgee, interesting player here. Trending in the right direction. 3 of his last 4 games have been useful for fantasy. Don't know if we can expect this to continue, so I don't know if I can recommend trusting McGee. But the problem here is Jay Crowder out with a sore groin. So I'm intrigued here if they can get, they're probably going to play Torrey Craig right now. We would see more Cameron Johnson. So monitor this Jay Crowder injury. He had been playing, Jay Crowder had been playing really well in a 10 and 12 man leagues. You probably want Jay Crowder on your team. So watch this one. I think in the short term, you're probably going to see maybe more Torrey Craig especially tonight. It looks like this game's going on right now. Let's actually do a live look in. Curious. I wish I could see who the starters were. So yeah, Torrey Craig got the start tonight in place here. So a little bit smaller lineup for the Suns, but it's the Rockets, so they just gave him the night off. I'm still waiting to see Cameron Johnson come back. So if you're in a league and Cameron Johnson's numbers, he's been dropping 18% rostered. Pick him up because before he got hurt, he had 6 games here of massive numbers. He ended that game against the Knicks, 38 real points. Really good player here for the Suns. So don't miss out on Cam Johnson. Go check out Cameron Payne. I think these are the guys that you want right now from the Suns. Philadelphia, Joel Embiid, James Harden. You're not getting those guys. Tobias Harris, that's fine. But what do we do with Tyrese Maxey? The numbers are starting to come down here. Still getting the minutes, which I like. But man, ever since James Harden showed up, we're losing the numbers. He did have a really nice stretch here in between the end of February and the beginning of March, but that seems like a long time ago. He hasn't topped 30 fantasy points in more than 2 weeks. Struggling to just get his rhythm and rack up rebounds, assists. It's just kind of not so much in his control anymore. Still a good scoring option though, so continue to hold on to him. But Tyrese Maxey losing a little bit of steam, unfortunately. After that, I can't recommend any players here for the Eagles or for the Sixers guys. Georges Niang, 18 points per game. Matisse Thybulle, 18 points. Paul Reed, it's just not there. So stick with the top 3 guys. Tyrese Maxey, still hold on to him. But the depth in Philly seems to be a little bit of a concern. Orlando. Frustrating team. They have 6 guys averaging more than 20 fantasy points per game over the last 7 days. Wendell Carter and Cole Anthony, and that's it. Those are the top owned guys here. If they're available in your league, go check them out. But Markelle Fultz, what's he doing here? He put up some nice games back to back. 31.25 in back-to-back games here, an 11 assist game. The minutes kind of topping around, around 18 to 20 minutes here. If he can contain this, I like this. So in 3 games, you get an 18, a 31, and a 31. You also have a 20 the night back here. So they're probably going to continue to rest him on nights of back-to-backs, which is concerning, but it looks like Markelle Fultz is back and playing healthy, so I like that for his long term. Still don't know if I recommend it for fantasy. Mo Bamba averaging 25 points per game over the last 7 days. Put up a massive 48 piece here, but otherwise he had been averaging roughly 21 some fantasy points here. So he's only 61% rostered. If he's available, go ahead and pick him up. I like the minutes there. And again, that game against Brooklyn, what Kyrie did to them last night, it just wasn't even fair. And then Moritz Wagner. This is a guy here. I guess I should frame this better because Orlando and the Pistons play tomorrow night. So that's why I added Wagner here. He is a guy that's averaging 23.4 points per game over the last 7 days. I look at his numbers here. His last 6 games have been fine. If you play in 10 and 12-man leagues, this is worth a shot, especially for tomorrow night when the only game in the NBA tomorrow night, let me pull it up here. The only game tomorrow night on Thursday, St. Patrick's night, it's Detroit at Orlando, NBA TV. So there's no televised NBA. Go ahead and try and pick up some of these Magic kids. Whether if you get Fultz for a night, if you get Bamba for a night, Wagner, another Wagner, it's Wagner, Gary Harris maybe. I would look into there. I don't know what's up with Chuma Okeke. He's questionable to a left knee contusion. That might make me just want even more Moritz Wagner. So I think that's the call. Moritz Wagner, Mo Bamba, Markelle Fultz. Pick up some of these dirty Orlando Magic kids, and we'll worry about the rest of this game when we get to the Pistons. Real quick here, the OKC Thunder, Aaron Wiggins, what are you doing here? 43 points. He did put up 1 game of 43 points, so not going to recommend him for fantasy. Too inconsistent here, but I'll tip the hat. 25 points, 9 boards, 5 assists, 1 steal. Solid game there from Wiggins. But SGA, man, continues to hold this team down. After that, Darius Bazley averaging 35.8 points per game, putting up some massive numbers here, 33, 48, 26, and 15. It's just kind of wildly inconsistent. You see the 15, 35, 19, 37, 11. It's just kind of all over the place. He'll give you some big games, but it's usually followed by some duds. But for the most part, 16.8% rostered, you could give it a try. Trey Mann starting to be more consistent, I see here. Maybe not so much. 30 and 26 the last 2 nights, 30 and 36 minutes. I like the minutes. If I just stick with the minutes, I'll get good numbers here. I think if you hold on to him for a 3 or 4 game week, you'll be happy with what you get. So Trey Mann, if you need someone in a 10 or 12-man league, 3.4% rostered. I like it. After that, Lindy Waters the third. Don't know what this is about, but 4 straight games over 20 fantasy points. I like the minutes here, trending in the right direction. He's a 4-category player. You see 5 categories in the last 2 games here, so very impressive here from the small forward. Not sure if he's going to maintain this, but I like what I see here. 4 straight games of usefulness for fantasy. Theo Maladon finally getting some consistent run here. Minutes of 31, 26, and 20 the last 3 games here. Useful games for fantasy, but again, I'm finding it hard to recommend this for fantasy guys. This is at your own risk kind of thing. I think Pokuševski, this guy, he had 1 bad game against Minnesota, but otherwise, I think this is roster. I think Poku is the guy here. I'm thinking that 16.25 skews things, but he had been playing really well for about a month now. So I like Poku, 5%. I would say if you need somebody on this team here, Darius Bazley, 16.8%. I do like Poku. He seems to be consistent, and Trey Mann. And then let's move it to New York here. The New York Knickerbockers, Julius Randle, 99% rostered. You're not getting him. RJ Barrett continues to play well. Mitchell Robinson should be rostered. He's 68% rostered. But the guy here is Alec Burks and Emmanuel Quickley. Alec Burks over the last 7 games averaging 30.9 points per game, and you have him at under 16% rostered. And Emmanuel Quickley, 6.5% rostered, averaging 23 points per game. Had some couple rough games here, but I think if you just kind of look at the minutes here, from Brooklyn all the way to about Philly here, he's playing a lot of minutes. So I think this might just be a blip. He's playing right now against Portland. We'll take a peek at that, see what we got going on here. Justice Winslow's back for the Portland Trailblazers, so that I'm kind of interested in. If he's going to be back, I might have to go look and add him. But anyways, you have starting Alec Burks is the starter right now, playing well, 4 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, 7 points. Pick him up, and then Quickley here, the first guy off the bench. So Quickly's kind of their 6th man right now, playing well tonight. So go ahead and check him out. And since we're here, Evan Fournier, maybe, probably, you probably want to add Fournier, playing good minutes here, starting minutes here against the Portland Trailblazers. So I like it. Go ahead and pick up these guys. Fournier, go ahead and pick up Burks, Quickley. Keep it simple with those guys. But I got a quick bounce to Portland here. Where is Justice Winslow's back tonight, guys? This is a great sign. So it says he's going to face a minutes limit after the last 7 games on Achilles issue. Winslow finally returned to the lineup for the first time. I might be picking up Winslow. I held Winslow in this league not too long ago. Dropped him because he missed a bunch of time here, but good to see him back. He had been. Look at his numbers. He had been balling before he got that Achilles injury. 31, 40, 34, 38, 31. So keep your eye on Justice Winslow. But let's keep it moving. We were left off on the Pelicans here. But anyways, let's see. Valanciunas, CJ McCollum, you're not picking these guys up. Devontae Graham playing better here. He's had a rough season, but it looks like the last 4 games he's been useful for fantasy. So he's at your own risk, 72.9% rostered, playing well here. Trey Murphy, the third. What's this about? 4 straight games here of good minutes, a big points game, touching 3 to 4 categories per night. Probably just a direct correlation to Brandon Ingram missing time. So I don't know what's up with Ingram. Diagnosed with a mild strain. He's going to be reevaluated 7 to 10 days. So we're coming up on that 7 to 10 days right now. We're going to expect Brandon Ingram back. So as long as Ingram's out, Trey Murphy's fine. Jackson Hayes is fine as a pickup here in 10 and 12-man leagues. He's been playing pretty consistent. Jose Alvarado, though, shout out Georgia Tech. Career game the other night, 16 points, 2 boards, 10 assists, 6 steals. So if you play categories, like this is the guy for you. He's going to touch 4 categories a night. Really sticky point guard, really good defensively. I do like Jose Alvarado. And then Herbert Jones, interesting guy, kind of inconsistent though. Getting the minutes. So I think if you want him to be your worst player in your roster, you could do worse. I like Herbert Jones as a young player. But keep in mind, when Ingram comes back, it's going to mess things up. It's the Pelicans, not super excited outside of Valanciunas, McCollum, and Brandon Ingram for sure. The Minnesota T-Wolves. It's the big 3. It's Cat, it's Edwards, and D'Angelo Russell, all well-owned here. Not going to get those guys. What's up with Naz Reid being the red O? Been ruled out with a back injury. That's probably going to mean more Jared Vanderbilt tonight. Pat Beverly, though, tripping my sensors, 26 points per game, only 13.6% rostered. So if you need someone, they're playing the Lakers right now, and he had a 41.75 game the other night. If he's going to get these minutes again, he's useful in 10 and 12-man leagues. What's up with Jaden Mcdaniels? Dealing with a high ankle sprain. That's annoying. He might be out for a little bit here. So no McDaniels. That's got to mean more Jared Vanderbilt tonight. So I think Vanderbilt's getting the start tonight. And Vanderbilt had been missing some time. He's been useful at points this season. You can see he's averaging 25 points per game on the year. So he is useful. Go ahead and check out if under 12%, like Jared Vanderbilt's the guy with Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels down here. He's going to be the next man up. And actually, since we're here, let's go ahead and see. I'm curious who got the starting lineup tonight for the T-Wolves. So they started Vanderbilt and Towns and Beverly. So, yeah, I would say if you need someone right now, Vanderbilt could be a nice pickup here. They're shorthanded at the bigger positions. And that's about it for Minnesota. We'll move on here. The Milwaukee Bucks. Of course, big three, Giannis, Drew, Chris, all well-owned here. Bobby Portis needs to be rostered. It's the must-own player at 81.7. But after that, I don't really know if I need to own anybody on the Bucks. It's kind of a four-man group. Grayson Allen, Serge Ibaka are the next two guys, the next two best players here. But Brook Lopez is back. That's kind of nice. Getting him back into the mix of things, definitely. I'm not saying to pick him up right now, but if he's going to just kind of slowly get ramped up for the playoffs here, I'm interested. 15 minutes, 6 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal. He's going to be a 5 category guy most nights here. He does touch most things. I think assists are his low one. So intrigued with Brook Lopez, maybe stashing him for a little bit. Moving on to the Miami Heat. This is a 4-man group as well. Adebayo, Hero, Butler, Lowry. You got to pick those guys up if they're available. They're probably not. And after that, I'm not really interested. Strus, Duncan Robinson, those guys are flashes in the pan if you need a player for a night or two. But otherwise, we'll kind of stay away here. Good to see, though. Oladipo's back. Not really playing a lot of minutes. He hasn't topped more than 18 minutes, but interesting. They're going to keep him on a minutes restriction and make sure he's on track for the playoffs. Memphis Grizzlies, they got their big three of Morant, Jaren Jackson, and Desmond Bane playing well here. But Brandon Clark, 32.6 fantasy points per game over the last 7 days, 44% rostered. Steven Adams, under 52% and averaging 30 points. So those two guys are the must adds if you can get them. What's up with Tyus Jones here, dropping 25.8 points per game over the last 7 days? Only 3% rostered. So you look at his last 5 games, I'm intrigued here. 4 out of 5, pretty solid for 10 and 12-man leagues. Kyle Anderson, also another guy here. I think in 10 and 12-man leagues, I'm just comfortable with him being maybe my worst player on my team. Not great, not going to get a lot of double digits, but he's a 4 to 5 category player, so he's productive. And then DeAnthony Melton will shout him out as well. When are we getting the wild man shooting guard? Where's my shooting guard here? Dillon Brooks is back. Dillon Brooks is back, guys. This is probably the hottest ad right now, I would say. So in 2 games, 24 minutes, 26 minutes, double-digit scoring, 4 to 5 categories per night, under 30% rostered. This is the guy, Dillon Brooks. Go pick up Dillon Brooks right now, guys. You want a piece of that for sure. The Lakers, LeBron James and Russell Westbrook are the must-own guys here. But what's up with Talon Horton-Tucker? The last few games here playing well. Don't know if I trust it for fantasy, but actually I do try. I'm going to say pick him up. 6.5% rostered starting against Minnesota tonight. I like THT. Carmelo Anthony, a guy here too. I don't mind if Anthony's my worst player on a 10 or 12-man roster. He's going to get the minutes. He's going to put up points. He's basically a 4-category player right now. So I like Carmelo. And then after that, I'm going to say no thank you. We should be hearing about Anthony Davis soon. It says this was from the 13th on Sunday. He will return to light on-court activities on Monday. So that's great. He's coming back soon. Maybe not this week, maybe next week, we'll see. But at least he's back doing some activities with the team. So that's great for AD owners. The Clippers, this is the wild team here because they really don't have anybody that's well-owned. You got Zubac, Reggie Jackson, Marcus Morris Sr., all averaging a ton of points right now. Marcus Morris, 36 fantasy points per game right now. popping off here. So only 20% rostered. I'm interested. Reggie Jackson, probably he's well owned here, so he's likely not available. And same with Zubac here. But Terrence Mann, interesting, 18.7 points per game. He did have a couple duds here, but he's still got that. 45 minutes, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 4 to 5 categories per night here. He's a good scoring guard here, so he should be more rostered here. Only 18.7%, and then after that, I don't know if I can trust Luke Canard, but it looks like 4 out of 4 his last games, he's been getting some nice 20-plus fantasy point games. He's a 4-category guy. Go ahead and pick him up if you will. There's Nick Batum. Shout out to Aiden if you're watching this. Nick Batum playing well. 5 straight games, well over 26 minutes per game. So I'm intrigued here with Batum as long as he's playing well. After that, I don't know. I'll stay away from the Clips. Indianapolis. The Pacers, they have a handful of guys here, averaging 4 guys over 30 fantasy points. That's Goga Badats, Jalen Smith. I've been hot on Jalen Smith on the waiver wire show. Halliburton, Buddy Hield, both of those guys are well owned. Same with Brogdon. But what's up with, Jalen Smith, man? Really good ad here for the Pacers. This is the player here. If you had to add anybody in tonight's show, it's Jalen Smith. I've been pumping him up in my waiver wire shows the last few weeks, averaging 33.5 points per game over the last 7 days. Just putting it in, man. It's a walking double-double almost every night. He's a 4 to 5 category guy lately. Look at the blocks. I like Jalen Smith. I think he's going to be a really good player for their future. Isaiah Jackson, also a guy here, averaging 28.8 points per game last 7 days. Just putting it in. He's a double-double flirt most nights here. 4 category guy. Look at the blocks on this one. Massive blocks from our guy Isaiah Jackson. So I love to see that. Terry Taylor, 24.9 fantasy points per game. Again, that's just a 2-game sample though. Dwayne Washington getting some minutes here, some 3 straight games that are useful for fantasy. So I like that. Interesting. The Pacers, man, like we're going to be diving into the Pacers, the next couple of weeks for fantasy playoffs. So do some due diligence, do some research, go pick up Jalen Smith. Don't know what to think about Goga. He had been playing really, really well. He plays in spurts, and that's kind of annoying. So I would just say go pick up Jalen Smith if he's available, or Isaiah Jackson. The Houston Rockets. Christian Wood's great. Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green should be rostered here. But what's up with Sengun? Starting to come around. He had a 50-point game. 28, 15, 11. So he's still wildly inconsistent. Don't know if I can trust it for fantasy. Josh Christopher, never heard of him before, but getting the minutes. I like the minutes the last 4 or 5 games. Don't know if I can trust that, though, for fantasy. I'm kind of guys, let's just stay away from Houston. Golden State, Draymond Green is back. Of course, Curry, Klay Thompson, must-own players. Andrew Wiggins is now listed as out with an illness. I think that's just going to be maybe a game or 2. And, of course, Draymond Green back. So those are the must-own players here. Jordan Poole, likely already rostered here. I'm starting to regret dropping him. I think I dropped him once in another league here. And he's been a really good player. Really, look at the scoring. 20, 30, 21, 20, 32, 23, 23. Fantastic. Just super consistent here. Jordan Poole, tip the cap to you, my sir. Kuminga finally getting some consistency at the minutes. You see 4 straight games of the upper 20s. That equals fantasy points. So this is very good for his future here. I like the fantasy numbers. If you need somebody, definitely think you can stash him right now. 5 categories the other night. Again, Draymond Green is back. That might take some of his playing time away. But for now, Kuminga got a nice little run here. And I think Kevon Looney needs to be rostered. He is 8.6% rostered, but look at his numbers. Like these are like if you play in 10 and 12-man leagues, I'm totally cool with Looney being the worst player on my team. And then after that, it's Draymond Green, and we'll say on to the next. Now, the Pistons, again, playing tomorrow night. We're going to want to know who we can add. Cunningham and Jeremy Grant's going to be out, it looks like. He won't play Thursday due to right knee inflammation. So if you need somebody, Sadiq Bey, Marvin Bagley, these guys are playing well. Hamidou Diallo already listed as out. So tomorrow night, you might see more Killian Hayes, more Corey Joseph, more Isaiah Stewart. Isaiah Livers, maybe? I don't know. He's been playing well the last 2 games here, playing well. So there's some names to shout out. Maybe we see some Kelly Olynyk. I don't know, guys. Check out some of these names here on the Pistons to add. Otherwise, it's just for one-night rental. Don't overthink it too much. On the Nuggets side of things, of course, Joker playing well. After that, who do you need to own? What's up with Bones Highland here, dropping 27.3? He's on a nice 4-game run here. Good minutes, good scoring, rebounding, assisting, and steals every now and then. So you get 3 to 4 categories for sure. Worth a look. Monte Morris averaging 26.6 points per game. This is steady. I think you could. I mean, he's not playing as great as he was early in March, but it's good enough for 10 and 12-man leagues. Aaron Gordon's been a frustrating player here. You just think he should be better, but his fantasy numbers have been dipping lately. He's kind of like a sub-20 fantasy point player the last week or two. He'll have an outburst every now and then, but again, I guess if you play in 10 and 12-man leagues, he should be rostered. I like J. Michael Green. I wish they would give him more minutes, because when he gets minutes, he's a really good player, really good scorer, double guy for them. But for fantasy, it's pretty much just Joker and maybe Barton, Monte, and Bones Highland right now, I guess. The Dallas Mavericks. I'm a big Maverick fan. Luka, of course, well owned here. Spencer Dinwiddie fitting in nicely with his new team. It was a little bit of a rough start, but he's starting to really settle in and be that consistent scorer for them, 4-category guy for the last few games. But after that, who do you roster? It's Dorian Finney-Smith. I don't know why it's criminally underrated how good this guy is. Dorian Finney-Smith, 24% rostered, averaging just under 24 fantasy points per game. But in the last 7 days, he's up to 26.8. Go ahead and pick him up, dual eligible. I like Dwight Powell. Starting to be more consistent with the minutes now that Porzingis is finally gone. He's kind of a roller coaster, though, for most nights. You see him put up a 50-piece, a 26, a 29, but some low numbers here. So proceed with caution. Jalen Brunson's been kind of disappointing of late here, just hasn't been himself, not a good scorer, kind of losing numbers to Dinwiddie. So after that, really spotty. I think it's Dorian Finney-Smith as the must pick up here. The Cleveland Cavaliers rounding into form, of course, Mobley, Garland, and LeVert are well owned here. Good to see LeVert back. 2 games here back, and he's playing well tonight, it looks like. But other than that, Markkanen, 45% rostered. He needs to be He needs to be more. Kevin Love needs to be more, 29% rostered. He's had a couple nice games in a row here. Just good effort on the boards and the points for sure. Isaac Okoro. Look at the minutes here. I love the minutes here. If you're okay with some stinkers every now and then, he's starting to play a little bit better. Still not a consistent scorer, but he's getting more consistent chipping in the rebounds, assists, and the steals. So in a 12-man league, I'm interested. After that, we'll say no. Not sure when Rondo is back. Probably soon. And what's up with Jared Allen again? He could be back by the end of the regular season. So they did add Moses Brown here. Moses Brown playing well tonight. 11 minutes, 8 points, 2 boards, 2 steals, 1 block. So I like that. If Moses Brown continues to play well, he might be on the list for fantasy. So shout out Moses Brown. We'll see what we can do with that later. The Chicago Bulls. I'm actually going to go see the Bucks and the Bulls next Tuesday night. So that's going to be fun at the Pfizer. This is the top 3 guys: DeMar, Vucevic, and Levine already well rostered here. But go pick up Ayo Dosunmu. Go pick up Kobe White. After that, that's about it. The Charlotte Hornets, of course, Miles Bridges, Terry Rozier, LaMelo Ball, all high rostered players here. Mason Plumlee, though, 26% rostered, averaging 36 points per game. Like these are great numbers for 10 and 12-man leagues. So go pick up Plumlee for sure. Cody Martin, fringe guy here. I don't know if I trust it for fantasy, so we'll keep it with the top 4 guys there. Moving on to Boston. Boston's been playing really well since the All-Star break. Of course, you got Tatum, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Robert Williams, Jaylen Brown. These guys are high-rostered players. What's up with Derek White, though? Derek White, not really – I've been a big Derek White fan. I liked him with San Antonio. He started off well with his new team, and then lately you see a 10, a 22, a 41 is nice, a 10 – a little bit inconsistent the last few games here. So we'll see how he plays tonight against Golden State. He's just not being asked to do as much. I think he was better suited personally with the Spurs. After that, nobody really for fantasy. This is a 6-man team. They play a lot of heavy starter minutes, and Derek White's kind of the 6th man there. The Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie Irving, you are disgusting with that game last night, 60 points. Of course, Kyrie, Kevin Durant already well owned here, and Ben Simmons as well. What's up with Curry, though? Ankle will not play. Bruce Brown's been the man, 17.6% rostered, just solid minutes though since this whole game log here. So go pick up Bruce Brown. He's been a gem lately. And then I kind of like Nick Claxton playing well, 28.8 fantasy points per game over the last 7 days. 3 straight really nice games, playing well so far against Dallas. I like what I see there. After that, James Johnson, maybe a couple nice games here. You did have a spurt here. I don't know if I trust that actually. What's up with Drummond? Drummond consistent. Drummond should be rostered. He's 48.7% rostered. 10 and 12 man leagues. He needs to be added. So we're waiting on Simmons. I don't know what's the date on Simmons yet. Epidural with the Nets today. Hopes that it will improve his back pain, allow him to be more moving forward. It's possible he may return for a couple regular season games. So we're not going to see Ben Simmons play much coming forward. So pick up Bruce Brown, guys. Pick up Bruce Brown. Pick up Seth Curry if available. And then let's finish it off. Atlanta Hawks here, must-own players, of course, Trae Young, Clint Capella, John Collins. After that, what's up with Gallinari with the red O here? Exited with the right biceps contusion, so that's unfortunate. Means Bogdanovich should be rostered for sure. Kevin Huerter, a fringe guy here, averaging 25 points per game. The minutes are there. I would say go pick up Kevin Huerter if he's available. And then, of course, I like DeAndre Hunter. Starting to get really consistent. He needs to be rostered. Looks like he's a free agent in this league here. So I like what I'm seeing from the man DeAndre Hunter here. These are nice. And again, with Gallinari hurt right now, that might be nice. And then Onyeka Okongwu getting some minutes for John Collins. So he's playing well. A lot of players to be interested in. So I just shouted out a ton of names, a ton of things at you guys. We just did the lap around the NBA. If you like this video, definitely hit the thumbs up. That helps let other people know this was a great video worth watching. And I don't know, subscribe if you're new. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Fantasy playoffs, basketball, March Madness, NFL, having free agency back. It's a good time to be a sports fan. So a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys later. Peace.